Okay, we're in Shmuel Aleph, Perek Yud Ches. We're now in Pasuk Zion. We're showing how slowly David is growing in prestige, and it's all the right things are happening and are falling into place to make David the future king. And Shul is watching all this happening, and finally we're leading up to Pasuk Ches, where things just fall apart over here. So after David is successful in all the battles he wages, and everybody likes him, and Yonasan likes him, and everybody likes him, and then they come back from battle and the women start singing praises, which could be understood in one of two ways, and Shul interprets it negatively. Pasuk Ches. Vayichar l'Shul ma'od, and Shul became very angry. Vayera be'einav hadavar zeh, and this thing was very bad in his eyes. Vayomer, and he said to himself, Nasnu leDavid revavos, v'li nasnu halafim. Did they give David credit for 10,000, and they gave me credit for 1,000? In other words, they may have meant it to say good about Shul, that Shul was fighting as if there was we said that he was fighting even with only 1,000. He was able to accomplish as much as David accomplished with 10,000. But it could be also understood that David killed 10,000 and Shul only killed 1,000. So he interpreted it the negative way. Va'odlo ach hamalucha, and now he is the chosen one of the people to even rule over them. And if most of the people want him, the kingdom will be with him on that power of that strength. And the truth is, he's not lacking anything. So he's kind of saying, okay, I guess all that's left now is for him to be the king. So we see this is the beginnings of jealousy. This is going to be the undoing of Shul. As the Mishnah Pirkei says, "V'kina v'kavod v'taiva motzinas adam min olam." The jealousy, honor, and lust drive a person out of this world. Well, he didn't have to worry about lust. He was not a lustful person, clearly not. But the kina and the kavod, so to speak, as we'll see, totally drive him out of this world. And what you're going to see in the next balance of his life is a very accurate portrayal of how jealousy does destroy someone. And as you'll see, every single thing that Shul tries to do to try to get himself extricated from David and the challenge that he has, it always backfires on him and becomes twice as bad. So, in other words, what Hashem wanted Shul to do is not what Shul did do. Now, the Meforshim explained this Yoshua Bachrach. It's very long. It's to have patience to go through the whole book over here, the main issue with Shul is that Shul had to struggle in his midos in two fronts. Number one, he was, generally speaking, a humble person. We see this many times. He was a humble person. On the other hand, he now became the king, and the king has certain laws in terms of people have to give him cover, people have to give him respect. To become a king, you have to be able to realize that people have to give you honor, and that's part of being the king. And Shul is kind of torn in how to operate with two midos, where we have two opposite midos, that a person has to be able to have a personality that you can have one midah at one time and use the other midah at the other time. And you cannot be a prisoner to your midas, and certainly you can't not be in control of your midos. So although he was, as he started off in the story, a very humble person, but as he becomes the king, he feels, well, now I'm the king, I have to start exercising my right to have kavod and honor, and I can't be so humble anymore. So for a person who, so now he's going to have to at the same time be humble and at the same time show leadership qualities. So it's difficult to hold them both together. And this is where he constantly fails. This is where he constantly fails. Whereas he should show kavod and he should show strength and what's the opposite word of humility? Not arrogance, but good self-esteem, confidence. So he's supposed to show confidence in front of the people, but instead he shows confidence in front of the Navi, in front of Hashem. And when he's told by Shmuel long ago, wait before the battle of Plishtim, and I will come. When I bring the korban, then you will fight the Plishtim. And Shmuel makes it extremely difficult for Shaul, and he waits till the very last minute. And by the time that's happening, the whole army's falling apart. There's no way he's going to win. So he has to be humble before Hashem and the Navi to just wait. But instead, people get nervous, people get anxious, and now he's worried about the people. He has no trouble humbling himself in front of people, but he's trouble humbling himself before Hashem. And one of the main laws of a melech, all the laws of melech, shouldn't have too many wives, shouldn't have too many horses, all these things, and also he has to listen to the Navi. These are all things to humble the king. It's supposed to humble him. So it's interesting. He started off by nature as a humble person, but the problem with Shaul is his extremism. He would either go to one extreme showing the midah, or to another extreme showing the midah, and never was able to develop that balance in between these midos. And that's why you have to be humble. So why couldn't you be humble and just wait for the Navi to come? On the other hand, the people were pressuring him. So he became humble in front of the people, but he could become arrogant in front of the Navi and not listen to the Navi. So he doesn't know how to hold it in the right way. And that is why, even though he only sinned in one area, right, one sin, so to speak, he lost his melucha. And we explained earlier that the reason why, even though David sinned in more places, because his sin had to do with being a king. And if he loses being the king, now what's the point of being the king? The point of being the king is the king has to be able to be very strong and very confident in what he's doing, and at the same time be very in front of people, at the same time be very humble before Hashem, which is not an easy task, and there's no king beforehand to show how it was done. So Shaul fails in this area, and so now if you fail, so what does Hashem do? Hashem does to you, and Luzzatto talks about this when he talks about suffering in the second chelik of Derech Hashem, and it should be the third chapter. 1 second. Just read a little bit. So he talks about suffering, and sometimes you suffering because you do an aveira, and there are times also when suffering is as a test, and there are times then. So what really was going on over here is that the suffering that Shaul is going through really is the tikkun he's supposed to make to correct the flaws in his behavior. That's what Hashem is giving him opportunities to make a tikkun in his behavior, and and if you're smart, you respond in that way. The problem with Shaul is he looked at all these tests, all these challenges, as just pains in the neck, and how's he going to get himself out of the suffering? He was dealing with the symptoms of the situation and not the cause of the situation. And it really is most pronounced over here. And you have to remember that Shmuel said to him a few times already. First he says, you're going to lose your kingdom. Then he says, because your heart wasn't with Hashem. And then he says, I've picked someone better than you. So he's already getting nervous. That's a bad news that he's getting. And then he starts worrying, who's going to be the person taken away from me? So it's all musar to him. It's all, just because Hashem says it doesn't mean you can't do tshuva and you can repair the damage. And Shaul, there were many ways that Shaul's life could have ended much better had he chosen. But one thing he would have to be able to get back on track is know when to use the proper time for humility and when to have the proper time for showing this confidence. And finally, as we come to so he had another time to show his humility before Shmuel, before the war of Amalek. And Shmuel was still with him at that time. And he failed again over there. Now he says, now forget it. Now you're on your own. And now the tests become harder. Becomes harder. It's going to take more for you to make that repair. So now what's happening is, now without Shmuel HaNavi, now you're going to have one last chance. Your last chance for your tikkun is David. And David really, he never did anything to Shaul. David never did one thing in his life to ever want to hurt Shaul, as you'll see. And he becomes just circumstances create that David becomes the rival for Shaul. It could be the public opinion, whatever, but he never made any plans to become the king, never wanted to be the king. Okay, was anointed to be the king, fine. But he's loyal to Shaul till the end. And Shaul keeps putting in his mind and thinking that David wants to take his kingdom, David wants this, David wants that. And what you see on the one hand, and now the question could be, so how is Shaul supposed to get out of this? Well, first of all, he's a big tzaddik, and he has within himself the ability to do it. But B, he has a son, Yonasan, who's showing him exactly what he's supposed to be doing. Yonasan's the one who loves David. And the Medrash comments how you see the great differences between Shaul and Yonasan, where the pasuk in Shir HaShirim says, he says, Ki azo kamoves ahava, where love can be as strong as death, as it were, like very powerful, and then kishol kina, like the depths is jealousy, rishafel rishbei shalavasa, and the coals are like fiery coals. So the Medrash on Shir HaShirim, when it analyzes the pasuk, it says ki aza kamavis ava, that love is so strong like death. It says, Medrash says, that's ava sha'av Yonasan l'David. That's the love that Yonasan had for David. As it says, vayavo Yonasan kinasha, which we said yesterday, Yonasan loved him like his soul. It says, kasha kishol kina, like Sha'ol literally means the depths of the pit of death. But it's also playing on the word Sha'ol. So it's kina shekana Sha'ol b'David. That's the depths is the jealousy that Shaul had for David, as it says, and see the next pasuk, Vayhi Shaul oyenes David. Shaul looks, eyes David, always looking every second what's David going to do, and then it ends off umatase ava b'tzad kina, and what can love do in the place of kina, in the place of jealousy? So in other words, when Yonasan saw David's greatness, and he was realizing, listen, this guy David is better than me. He is more God-fearing than me. He's able to bring out that courage in front of Goliath more than I was able to bring it out. So there's something to be jealous of. So now the question is, what do you do with jealousy? Listen, they have an ancestor who was a very jealous woman, and that was Rachel. When Rachel saw that Leah had the 4 boys and she didn't have any children, it says Rachel was jealous. That is the midah of the descendants of Yosef, is to be jealous. The question is, it could be a positive jealousy or a negative jealousy. And what was Rachel jealous of Leah? Not of the children, but of her masim tovim, says Rashi. Not of the children she had, but of her good deeds. And she realized, if my sister has so many good deeds, then I have to learn from her good deeds and have more good deeds. That's what I'm supposed to do. And learn positively from her. If Hashem is blessing her, that means there's something good about this person that I don't have, and I have to learn that. And that was Rachel's ability to do that. Yonasan is able to develop that as well. He's able to see, you know what? This guy's got more spiritual strength than I have. So what you're supposed to do, don't look at him as a rival, make him your friend. Make him your friend. That's somebody you have what to learn from. And the love was an internal love, a spiritual love. That's that fine line between loving a person and hating a person. That person can offer you so much. So why don't you take advantage? Be their friend. Instead, so Yonasan used the right tactics, and that's what this Rabbi Bachbach says. He says, "L'madrega hazos rotz Hashem lahavi Shaul." And Hashem wanted to bring Shul to that level as well. You can see how great was Shul's spiritual strengths. A person does not test a person only on what he's able to accomplish. So in other words, Hashem says, Shul, you're a great person. You have to be able to swallow your pride. And I know how hard it's going to be. It's not easy. You have to be able to say, you know what? You got to learn to be friends with this person. If you learn to be friends with this person, you'll ultimately be able to do tshuva. The biggest tshuva on a person who is having too much arrogance is what? You have to overcome your jealousy. That's the test. An arrogant person will usually become jealous of somebody else. But an arrogant person thinks he's great. What's this other guy being greater than me? So that becomes his rival. And now you have to be able to take that jealousy. When you feel that jealousy, you're saying, what's making me jealous about him? What's making me jealous about him? That he's a bigger tzaddik than me? So if he's a bigger tzaddik than me, if he has money, what's to be jealous about? Money? Listen, Hashem decides how much money a person has. I can't be jealous of his money, his good looks, his fortune. What can be jealous about? Okay, so what? That's all Hashem decides. That you can't touch one penny that somebody else has. And that area, Shul was tzaddik in that area. That would never be jealous in that area. He didn't make David a millionaire. But what could make him jealous? That David is a bigger tzaddik. And I'm not as big a tzaddik. That you can't blame Hashem on that. So now the hardest part is to be able to say, you know what, this guy is greater than me. And the Navi said that I'm going to lose my kingship. So I have to swallow my pride, and I have to support David as being the next king with a Lev Shalom. And you're a humble enough guy that you could do it. When they wanted you to be the king, you didn't want to be the king. It means you have it inside yourself to not want to be a king. So now that you are the king, all of a sudden, you know, nouveau riche in terms of being nobility, and all of a sudden, but I have to hold on to my nobility. He loses it. And therefore, this is the test. Can you just give over the reins to David? And that's it. And you can teach everybody that he is greater than me. I'm the first one to admit it. And vizel. And make a very peaceful transfer of power and go retire as the king emeritus. Go back to your ranch in Crawford, Texas, and live out your life, the rest of your life, and as a big tzaddik, and work on your avodas Hashem for the rest of your life, and just give it up. And Hashem makes it easy for that to happen, because look how popular David is. It's not like people don't like him and this and that. Everybody loves him. So we could look at it, everybody loves him. Hashem said that it's going to pick someone better than you. You see he's better than you. So instead of hate him and be jealous of him, just love him. Love him. And then you will grow from who you are. You have problems. The Navi said you have problems. It's not Stam. The Navi said, you have failed twice. And I'm going to pick somebody better than you. So let it happen. And if you let it happen, you can now become a greater person. Instead, he fights it. And everything he does, it just takes him down. So, it's incredible lessons. You see that there's tremendous jealousies in this world. And people are jealous of other people who have more than them. And not just monetarily, even spiritually, a person. And there is this kind of Yetzer Hara that if people see other people that are, superior to them spiritually, there's a great Yetzer Hara just to take them down. Just to take them down. And instead of being their friend. And that's all what Avos Yisrael is all about. But not just Stam Avos Yisrael, talking about Avos Tzadikim. And the trick always is to be near a tzaddik, and to be friends with a tzaddik, instead of saying, just machavek, they're nobody, there's nothing important, there's nothing to be had over there. So what happens is you see just how terrible the end is for a person, where they just can't see it. And no matter who's helping them and telling them and this, and you see, and more than that, Hashem goes to the extreme to hit Shul's Achilles heel, to make him miserable. It's not Stam. It's not Stam. David's a little successful. Like if you look carefully at every single step, every single thing that happens when he needed someone to play the music for him. So we said that it was Doeg, right, who comes along and says who he is. And he doesn't just say who David is. He says all the virtues of David. He's amazing. He's great. He's the best. He's the this. He's the that. And he's got all these qualities that Shul doesn't even have. And that's the guy. But he's the only guy who's going to be able to help you. And then when David puts the armor on, all of a sudden the armor is able to fit onto David's body. And then he's saying, hey, this. And he comes from the family of Peretz, so not from Yehuda. It means he could be the one to take over from you. And he's the one who's very successful in war. Like to push it to the limit. Everything that Shul could not want is what Hashem did. So then you got to start thinking. So the lesson, I think, is unbelievable. It's easy to see when it's happening to somebody else, and it's not easy to see when it's happening to yourself. And that's why that's what I said yesterday. There's a little bit of Shul in everybody, and there's also the possibility to have a little bit of the Yonasan in everybody. The person has to make a decision. Does he want to follow the path of the Yonasan, or does he want to follow the path of Shul? And again, it's so easy to see Shul's an idiot. So he has some melancholy. I don't. No matter what you want to say, if Shul was totally mentally disturbed and delusional, the Torah wouldn't waste its time writing any lines about it.
But he was.
There's depression, and then there's totally not in control of your faculties. Depression. There's a lot of people who are depressed. Some people who are depressed in this world. How you define it? Not necessarily. There's a fine line between depressed and clinically depressed. It's a fine line. And nowadays it's easier to say I'm clinically depressed. I'm not responsible for myself. Keep giving me pills, and God willing, everything will be fine. I'm not saying people can't have pills. I'm not saying there's no place for the pills. But there is no place for people to say that really I'm not responsible for my life anymore. And yes, there was a certain spiritual strength Shul had, and that spiritual strength Hashem took away, and there was a falling on Shul's part, no question about it. And David was picking up on that and had that which he didn't have. But there's still no excuse. You have a solution. Go attach yourself to this tzaddik. Go be friends with this tzaddik. Go learn from this tzaddik. Don't be jealous of what he has. Person would start to think about what things make a person depressed in their life. And you'll see 9 out of 10 times it's an Arishkeit. What are you depressed about? Ask them, what are you depressed about? Well, things never turned out in life the way I planned on it. Oh, so it means you're a Baal Gaiva and you're not a Baal Bitachon. What does that mean? It didn't work out. I was always hoping to be more successful. So Hashem said, you're not going to be more successful. And your avodas Hashem is not in that realm. So why are you depressed? Why are you depressed? And if you'll see, the root of depression usually comes from the fact that you're lacking in bitachon. If you really have bitachon, and there's something wrong in your midos. If you'd work on your midos and you work on your bitachon, magically you wouldn't be depressed anymore. That's a big avoda. It's easier to learn Shas than to do that. So Shul is very depressed. No question about it. He's very depressed. If I was the king, and all of a sudden I was told you're not going to be the king anymore, and you messed up, and this and that, and you could say, listen, I never really wanted to be the king, and you forced me to be the king, and now I have to be the king, and you expect me to succeed in an area that I didn't want to be in. But you have to be talking to this. Hashem wanted you to do this, what you have to do. And if you make mistakes, admit you made the mistakes, and say, help me do tshuva. Now there's two things you don't ever see in Shul, and this is key. Now you wouldn't notice it unless you see it in David HaMelech. You don't see Shul going over to anybody and say, help me do tshuva. A. B, which you also don't see is what? Does nobody once mention he davened to Hashem? Now what's the exact opposite about David HaMelech? David is always davening to Hashem. Now let's analyze. We'll see who has more reason to be more depressed in life. until David stepped forth onto the scene here, at whatever age you want to say he was. Big Michalowicz, exactly what age he was. But if anybody had reason to be depressed in life, it was David HaMelech. It was David HaMelech. He was treated as so poorly by his family, and just so many things. Even by the way Eliab spoke to him. He says, "Oh, what are you doing again? You're making trouble again? What are you coming for?" Because see, his brothers didn't like him at all. But he davened Hashem. He worked on it. He says, "You've put me in such a matzav. I meant to grow in this matzav." And that's what Lutzado says. Hashem, if you do things wrong, Hashem is going to make you suffer. But your suffering is meant for you to do tshuva. And that suffering, and then depending on the situation, Hashem will either give you help. He'll give you people that will help you in your life to be able to finally be able to succeed in seeing what's wrong. And then Lutzado talks about, he says, but sometimes Hashem's going to make it as if there is a wall, a stone wall opposite you, and you figure there's no way I can improve. And that's also part of the test. Sometimes you feel there's a stone wall, there's no way that you can get out of it, and it's also part of the test. And that's why people have to be very careful. You know, when Hashem does put you in a matzav of suffering, He obviously wants you to do tshuva. Obviously, He wants you to do tshuva. There's not even if you did an avera, but there's something lacking that you're able to bring out in life that you haven't brought out in life. Hashem, when there's problems in your life, that means that there is growth that is still required on your part. And Hashem will make the growth, depending on how far gone you are, either easier or He'll make it nearly impossible. Meaning to say, He can make it easier. He can provide you a good friend who's a confidant, who's able to help you and get you through this difficult time if you're willing to listen to the confidant. And then if you don't, sometimes you just have to do it all on your own. You know, to be able to get up and just, you know, what Shul was required, what Hashem says, you have to publicly acknowledge that you're not fit to be the king and give it over to David. Just do that. And he just couldn't get himself to do it. And we're looking from the outside and say, you idiot, do it. The Navi said twice you're losing it. What, are you going to fight the Navi? The Navi's always right. You're not always right. He's right. And he says, it's going to be somebody better than you. Right? And as the story unfolds, even your son says, I don't want to be the king, and I want David to be the king. Okay? And your son is a tzaddik. Okay? Yonasan was a tzaddik. Right? And you see, everybody likes the guy. And you see, and the guy never did anything to you in his whole lifetime. He's not, you know, getting a whole bunch of people to run against you and this and that. He does anything you want. But so hard is when you're entrenched in a position to be able to say, okay, I'm wrong, I'm giving it up, and that's it. It's very humiliating to be able to do that. But that's what Hashem said He could do this. And the fact that He doesn't, that makes it, he's not a tragic figure in terms of that he was sick and he couldn't control himself and that. He's a tragic figure that he didn't, this is like the clear indication of a person who is not able to rise to the challenge. Is not able to rise to the challenge. And that's why we're learning this. And on the other hand, David HaMelech, Yonasan is able to rise to the challenge, David is able to rise to the challenge, and Shul is not able to. Now admittedly, Hashem gave him an incredible test. We're not minimizing that. It was an incredible test. But he was someone that should have been able to rise to that occasion. And he couldn't. That is what you have to learn. And therefore, everyone has to look in their own lives. You know, you look how stupid Shul looks. If a person would just look at what he does, you see how stupid you look. How stupid we look. We do the same thing that Shul HaMelech does. We're trying to solve the problem where the problem is ourselves. The problem is ourselves. And just go. The king is supposed to listen to the Navi. Right? He didn't listen to the Navi twice already. Now he says, forget it. I can't be here anymore to help you anymore. While you'll see, David will go to Shmuel. David will tell him his problems. This is the next paragraph. But Shul doesn't go to, he goes to his military leaders. Okay, how am I going to get rid of David? If I just get rid of David, the problem will go away. You know, and that's the thing, like people, we have to live with people we don't get along with. All I have to do is get rid of the people in my life who I don't get along with, and then everything will be fine. So what does Hashem do? Hashem says, you're not going to get rid of them. If you get rid of them, I'll give you someone who's 10 times worse. I can't get along with my boss, so I'm going to change jobs. So you go to another job. Hashem's going to give you somebody 10 times worse than that boss. It's just going to be that way. Can't get along with your wife. Can't get along with your husband. Get divorced. Fine. So what's Hashem going to do? Get married to somebody else. It's going to be 10 times harder to get along with. You think you can change the situation? Things will be fine. If there's a problem, if Hashem is if you are in pain, you're feeling pain, you're feeling depressed. It's not because everybody else is bad and you're an innocent victim. There's something wrong with you, and get over it. That's it. There's something wrong with you. Now, I'm so stressed out. Well, then you're missing some bitachon. Why don't you work on your bitachon? A person who's bitachon doesn't get stressed out. Finished. You don't get stressed out. You don't fight with your spouse if you have bitachon. You don't. So you're arrogant. You don't have bitachon. Oh, you got problems. So solve those problems. It's a lot easier to get rid of people than to get rid of a meter. And you see how few. What do they say? Resistance is futile. No, Hashem made up that idea, not a movie. Resistance, if you resist Hashem's plans to make you better, it's futile. If anything, you'll just become worse and worse and worse. So with that background, everything we're going to read all makes sense now. And every bizarre behavior on Shul's part, if we understand it totally, it all has to revolve around that problem. He's trying to solve the problem with the wrong techniques, and it always backfires on him. And then the person really starts to look meshuggah. To this person, you could be so nice, and the truth is, you'll see that there was that Shul himself loved of it too. It was a love-hate relationship, because there was a lot. Remember, Shul still was a tzaddik. You have to remember, he still is a tzaddik. You're watching a tzaddik struggling with his midos, that he's not able to handle it. You're not dealing with an Esav now. You're dealing with a tzaddik. You're seeing that even a tzaddik has these problems. And that he does love David in a certain way. He does love David in a certain way, but it's just missing a little bit over here. All right, so let's read a little bit inside now, just see how this all plays itself out. Question?
Is there anything in Medrash or Tuvim about Yonasan's relationship with Shaul?
Well, I think you're going to have enough evidence in the text itself. The interaction between Jonas, I'm sorry, who?
Between Yonasan and Shaul.
Yeah, you're going to see themselves. Jonason's trying to get the file in the right. Yonasan sees the problem. He's trying to help the problem. And that's why if you look at the different Chazal, they say, why did Shaul lose his melucha? There's conflicting Chazal. One says because he was too humble, and one says because he was too arrogant.
Yes, I was wondering.
In other words, it's both. It's both sides of the coin.
Of David, that Yonasan loves David more than Yonasan loves.
Well, we'll see. It's early in the game, but we'll read on and we'll see how it plays itself out. So let's see. Pasuk Tes. Vayihi Shol Oyein es David. Mehayim Hahu v'Holok. So now Shol is Oyein. What does Oyein means? It means he put his eyes on him. I mean, really focused on, was suspicious of him. He's figuring this is the man that the Navi said is the one who's better than you, that I'm going to give the kingdom to. So now he begins plans to kill him. So that's going to be the solution. I will find a way to kill him now. That's what happens. Pasuk Yud. Vayihi mimacharas. It was the next day. Vatitzlach ruach Elokim royal Shul. And now another one of those godly evil spirits come over Shul. Vayisnabei b'soch habayis. Now, simple translation would say, and he was prophesying in his house, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So the Meforshim all explain in one way or another, say that in other words, he was showing certain behaviors of a Navi. Now, what we said in the Shabbos alternative class, we said that, many times a Navi was referred to as Meshuggah, crazy. People said, they called the Navi Meshuggah. Why is he called a Meshuggah? Because the Meshuggah, what's a Meshuggah? Well, how do you define a Meshuggah? Someone doesn't know something normal.
Contrary.
You don't act normal, you're contrary. So now, if everybody is a sinner, and the prophet gets up and says, you all have to do tshuva, what are you going to call him?
Sure.
What do you mean? We're not Meshuggah, we're normal. He's not normal. What do you mean? We all, do what we all do. That's normal. It's normal to, not have bitachon Hashem. And it's normal to want to increase our monetary lifestyle at the expense of our spirituality. That's what everybody does. You're living in a modern world. Comes another and says, you're a bunch of sinners. So they say he's a meshuganer. Right? Because to be able to go contrary to everybody. So here, Shul really is acting crazy. He's acting crazy. Now, there's many different ways. Maybe he is getting a shtickle prophecy. He's getting a shtickle prophecy that David HaMelech is going to take over. And that prophecy is making him crazy. Right? A person thinks, we think, play out all the negative scenarios that are happening and get upset at the scenario even before it happened. I bet you David's planning to do that. I bet you he's trying. I bet you he's thinking. I bet he's getting all worked up. Like he's becoming a Navi. He's becoming a crazy Navi. I know what you're really planning to do. What do you mean? Are you a prophet or something? So he's acting like a meshuggah prophet, as it were. Meanwhile, the David menagim biyado, kiyom biyom, and David's just playing the harp. Just playing it like every day. Just doing what he wants. V'hachanis biyad Shaul, and a spear is in Shaul's hands. Okay, and now this is an example again. So now Yud Aleph, he kind of loses control. Vayato Shaul chanis, so Shaul casts the chanis, and he says, Vayomer akebet David uvakir. I'm going to kill David by the wall. I'm going to make it look like an accident. I was checking out my spear, just seeing how my casting goes, and I said, oh, it slipped. And I'm going to make it look like an accidental death. Which he tries. But Vayisav David mipanav pamoim. But David doesn't know what's going on. He's just playing the harp. He's into his music. He's fakest, and he doesn't even know that Shaul's got a spear in his hand. And then, when Shaul throws the spear, David, when he's in his rapture, when he's doing it, he just happened to turn his body, and the spear missed him once. And Shaul tried it a second time, it didn't work. So he wants to make it look like an accident. He can't even make it look like an accident. And at this point, David doesn't even know what's going on. So that's his first attempt at killing him. So what's Shaul's reaction? Shaul's reaction should have been, Yud Beis, Vayira Shaul lefnei David. Shaul now is afraid of David. Why? Ki haya Hashem imo. He sees Hashem is with him. Umeim Shaul sore, and how Hashem has left Shaul. He says, I'm not getting any good mazel over here. So now that doesn't work. So now again, every time he looks at David, it begins to get him upset. So he figures, okay, I'll try another plan. Yud Gimel. Vayisirei Shaul me'imo. So he takes Shaul away from himself. I can't stand looking at him. Vayisimei lo sar aleph. He makes him an officer over 1,000. Now, the Malbim points out that this is a demotion. Okay? Before he was a general, and now he's only a sar over 1,000. So he demotes him and says, okay, and I want you to go to battle. And he's hoping that if he goes to battle, first of all, he gets rid of him from in front of him, and maybe he'll die in battle. But doesn't work. And he went out and he came before the people, and so it didn't help because the people kind of encouraged him to be a bigger leader. They said, "What are you doing with 1,000? Get up there. You be up there, a bigger general. Do other things like that." So, and you see in Yudalid, Vayehi David l'chol d'rachav maskil v'Hashem imo. You see everything David does, he's very successful. Hashem is with him, right? So Shaul's trying to demote him and make him worse, and it comes out, it's Hashem's hashgacha. Whatever the situations come up, that he's thrust again into a bigger leadership role, and everything happens properly. And in Tesvav, Vayar Shaul asher maskamot, he sees how much more successful David is. Vayar Ripadav, he becomes even more afraid of David. Right? So you see that everything he's trying is not working. And finally in Tesayin, V'chol Yisrael v'Yehuda oheves David, all the Jews and the tribe of Yehuda, they all love David. Ki yotzei uvav them. He comes out, he goes out before them, and therefore the jealousy gets even stronger. So he tries to kill him, and make it look accidentally, doesn't work. He sends him out to demotes him. Maybe it's just going to battle, and he rises even in power. And then he says, "Nothing to do with this guy. He's an unbelievably successful guy." So now he's going to try another tactic to get rid of David, and they all just don't work. Okay, a lot to learn from him.